If your podcast calendar looks like a clown car of random experts booked by some agency you've never met, this episode is for you because there's a whole cottage industry built on turning your show into a guest farm, and if you're not careful, you, my friend, are the free labor. Stop me if you've heard this one. There's a booking agency that promises founders and coaches, we'll get you on 30 podcasts a month, massive exposure, authority overnight, so they scrape Apple and Spotify for any show with business, leadership, or marketing in the title. Then what they do is blast the same canned pitch to 500 different hosts and dump whoever says yes onto the calendar. The result is you end up interviewing people your audience doesn't care about on topics you did not choose for reasons that don't serve your show or your business. But hey, at least somebody got to screenshot, I guested on 50 podcasts this quarter. Let's be real though, most interview shows are outsourcing the hard work of the show to the guest. And that's okay if you are fine with zero growth and having a podcast that's for everybody about random and unique conversations with interesting people. And I've been there. Look, I promise I've been there. That's why I did the pivot from Freddie's huge Ask podcast to Cruise Through HTX. And then why I am about to go into the final season of Cruise Through HTX, tentatively the final season, and really focus on this show, Your Mic, a podcast for new and aspiring podcast hosts with a focus on solo episodes. Now back to the interview shows. Same 5 questions, every single podcast, same LinkedIn safe answers. Listeners don't need another half-baked TEDx audition crammed into 40 minutes of conversation. They need a host who will fight for their attention, cut the fluff, and pull something out of the guest they can't get anywhere else. If your episode could swap guest names and sound the same, you don't have a show, you have a conveyor belt. For a B2B show, your guest strategy should be criminally simple. Guests must either match your ideal client profile or teach something so sharp it immediately makes your listener money, time, or keeps them sane. Every guest episode must answer, what will my listener be able to do differently after this conversation? If the answer is, they'll be inspired, toss it. Inspiration without execution is just podcast-flavored sugar, and we all know sugar feeds cancer. And you don't want your podcast to be ear cancer. Now, here's how to detox your calendar. You stop being a free PR service and start being a real host. Kill the auto-accept. If an email pitch does not match your show's name, your audience, in a specific episode or angle, it goes in the trash, period, end of story. Give every guest a job. Before you book them, decide, are they a case study? Proof your method works? A prospect? Someone you'd actually like to work with? A teacher? They bring a skill set your listeners desperately need. If they don't fit one of those or all of them, you, my friend, are about to waste an hour of your time. What you also want to do is write the episode before you invite the person. Don't think, I want to have John Doe on. Think, I want to make an episode called How to Launch a Show in 30 Days Without Hating Your Life. John Doe happens to be the perfect person to help me teach that. Topic first, guest second, always. In fact, you can go back to previous episodes of mine where I talked to one of my favorite podcast hosts and a dear friend of mine. Her name is Rena Friedman Watts, host of Better Call Daddy. She is one of the best interviewers on the planet. And every single time she has been on my show, she has talked about specific tactics related to having a podcast. What you also want to do is host like it's your show. Interrupt when they drift. Yes, interrupt. One of my other favorite podcasters, his name is James Altucher. He actually does this brilliantly. He'll interrupt, but then he'll also say, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to ask you. That is a gold mine of a hack when it comes to keeping your show focused, and just in case your guest goes off topic or starts to kind of get in the weeds with industry jargon. I love that hack. Interrupt when they drift or when they start to not really make sense. Pull them back to your listener and ask, how exactly? Give me an example until the advice stops being LinkedIn wallpaper and starts being something that your listener can use. And here's the thing. You're not running a charity for people who bought a guesting package. You, my friend, are building and hosting a podcast for listeners who want a transformation, who want to get from point A, that point A being a pain point that they cannot seem to solve, but they're listening to you to help solve it so they can get to whatever their point B is. That transformation. So many shows flatline, not because the host is bad, but because the show quietly turned into a guest factory. I'm speaking from personal experience. Burn that factory down. Pick fewer, sharper conversations. Make every guest earn their airtime by serving your listener first. And if you want a framework for building a podcast that does not depend on random guests to feel valuable, grab the Speke Podcasting Roadmap. It walks you through defining your audience, your promise, your format, so you know exactly who should sit across from you and why. Send me an email. I'll shoot it over to you. Freddie with a Y at speakpodcasting.com. Thanks so much for listening.